Okay, well, today is December 16th, 2014. I'm Nancy Laine, and we have a wonderful guest with us right now, Louis Travieso. You'll see him his LinkedIn profile is right on the screen here. Louis and I met on LinkedIn, of course, and he joined our LinkedIn group called Project Transition USA. And Louis is active duty. He is currently at U.S. CENTCOM, Central Command. As you'll see on the screen here, he's the Deputy Director, Senior Intelligence Advisor, and Louis happens to also be an expert resume writer, and he's the founder of Resume Giants. That's his business. And welcome, Lou. It's just great to have you with us tonight.
Nancy, thanks for the kind words. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully I can be of assistance to many transitioning members and their journey entering the private sector.
You know, it's wonderful, wonderful to have you with us because I am not a resume writer, not at all. I just do LinkedIn profiles. So, you know, resumes are extremely important, of course, and I'm just so grateful that this effort that we're doing here during the holidays, as you were saying, did I understand you right? You're doing this pro bono. You're just doing this to help veterans, right?
Absolutely. I don't think there's enough resources or support out there because of the time, and there's so many people that need the help that absolutely during the holidays I'm more than happy to sit down or talk to people about the challenges they face when it comes to resume writing, and see how I can help them transition into a better life.
That is so awesome, and I'm just so glad that you were able to attend one of our LinkedIn workshops earlier this year, and you got a chance to see what we're doing through our nonprofit organization, Project Transition USA, and, you know, during the holidays here, this project here, we're just going to help as many transitioning veterans as we possibly can. And we just started this new YouTube channel, so this is a whole new effort for us, but it just kind of makes sense because I know my time's limited, your time's limited. I mean, just look at how difficult it's been for you and I just to find a time to talk, for instance.
Yeah, it took 3 days in planning.
I know, and I want to help as many veterans as possible too, so we've just got this no-brainer idea here is just to start a YouTube channel, and when we help somebody to just record it and put it on YouTube, and then, we're going to ask our friends to help us spread the word that these resources are available to people free now.
Yep.
So anyway, I believe that, now, if I understood you right, we're going to be first talking about a resume that you got like before you worked with somebody, just a typical resume that a veteran has. Is that correct?
Yes, partially. It's a resume that I got from a veteran who wanted me to conduct a free critique and review of it. It's in support of her finding a private sector position in HR management. That'll be the first resume you look at. The second resume will be a finished, tailored product that we did working with a transitioning senior Marine who actually has a great success story and was able to find an awesome position with Capital One in Dallas, Texas. So a good story, show where someone, the challenges that some veterans face, and then we'll move into more of a positive light of the finished product and what it should look like, and we can discuss both.
Oh, that's perfect. I think, being able to see it visually plus hear you talk is just such a strong way of learning. And so what I'm going to do through our wonderful technology here, I'm going to pass the baton to you, Lou, and I'm going to pass the presenter role to you, and you can just accept it there, and then we'll be able to see what you have on your screen.
Thanks, Nancy. I appreciate that. Let's see here. I'm downloading as we speak. It's your turn to shine. Okay. See if I can take control of this. I apologize for the technical difficulty.
Oh, no, it's no problem because it's the first time we've ever actually done this before. By the way, for those of you who are watching now, we're using a wonderful technology called joinme.com. And Join Me is so amazing as a training tool because instead of you guys just hearing what we're saying, you can see what we're doing. And you see on the screen right now that Louis is now the presenter. It's just wonderful. Plus, we're recording all of this so we can share it with you. And you can watch it again and again as many times as you want. You don't have to worry about taking notes. It's just right in front of you. So take it away, Lou.
All right, Nancy, thanks. It looks like I got the hang of this here. So, Nancy, can you see what I'm doing here?
I can.
Trying to open this up so we can show the audience about a resume. But before I get into this specific resume, I want to take this time to talk about some general things that are value to a veteran when he's writing a resume. I want to talk about what some of the biggest difficulties veterans face when they're writing their own resume. And I focus this down to 3 areas to make this more succinct. Number 1 is really talking about their accomplishments. Many veterans it's instilled in them to be a quiet professional, not to brag about their achievements in the workplace or during their career. Unfortunately, when you're entering the private sector, it's really all about measurables. It's all about achievements. It's all about quantifiable data. So in order to be really successful and stand out, you're going to have to do that. So what I tell veterans all the time is to move away from the job duties and really talk about what have been their impacts. So that's number 1. A second major challenge that they face is focusing their resume. Many veterans have a habit of trying to be jack of all trades. And you see this too, Nancy, all the time.
Sure, all the time.
All the time. So it's about focusing their resume to either an industry or specific position. And they're going to get a lot more out of their resume when they do that. And lastly, professional branding. Many resumes, and I look at thousands of resumes a year, many resumes do not contain professional branding themes. So when you look at a resume and you don't know what this person brings to the table, you don't know where the virtual presence is, you don't know that they're not getting any testimonials, it kind of gives you a feeling like, okay, this is just another number. What you really want to do is present what you bring to the table, and I think a lot of that has to do with professional branding. Of course, your virtual presence, what I mean by that is your LinkedIn profile, or Nancy's an expert at it. She can tell you how important LinkedIn is. And lastly, another point I want to make before I get into this portion of the resume is what are the most common veteran and transition military member resume mistakes. And number 1, resumes are too general. We talked about that, but I want to emphasize that. Don't be general, be specific. Focusing on job duties rather than achievements, and demilitarizing the military right. I can't even speak today. Sorry, Nancy. Making sure the resume is no longer military-centric. Focusing it on a civilian audience. Using acronyms and things of that magnitude is not going to win you over with an HR professional recruiter. They don't know what you're saying. They don't understand those acronyms. Am I right, Nancy?
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, they tell us this all the time. They're like, oh, please just tell them we don't know what they're talking about.
It's true. It's absolutely true. So staying away from that and understanding your audience. And with that said, let's take a look at this resume. This is from a mid-level U.S. Army professional that was transitioning out of the Army and was looking for an HR management position. So number 1, there's really no profile here, Nancy. You see that? There's no profile. I don't get an understanding. Is there any way to get that
full screen, you think? Lou? Is there any way to get that full screen?
Yeah, I think so. There we go. How's that look?
Oh, there we go. Excellent.
So
perfect.
For the audience at home, when you look at this resume, does it excite you at all? It doesn't excite me, Nancy. And hopefully I'm not coming off too blunt with the audience here, but this is in support of them so they don't make these same mistakes. So I want to concentrate on 3 things on this resume, go through format, content, and then the branding piece. format-wise, this resume is approximately 2 pages, and you can see here. No issues there on the length. I'm always a fan of 1 to 2 page resumes. Anything longer, it gets a little monotonous to a reader because you really only have an average 6 to 12 seconds with a recruiter. Nancy, I've been in your workshop numerous times, and what do they always say? Less than 20 seconds. Am I correct?
Yeah, and you know what they say all the time, of course, is that it's not that they don't care. They've got this huge stack of resumes that they've got to get through. That's all it is. They're forced to be that way.
Personal.
Yeah, isn't that something?
And so you have to really be visually appealing. And this resume, unfortunately, is not visually appealing. I'm not asking for someone to be a Picasso per se, but what I am asking for is when you're writing your resume, make sure you're visually appealing. You could add page borders. You can add different color fonts. It's 2014, so you don't have to be as rigid as if this was done on a typewriter anymore. Second, the professional. Where's the profile statement on this resume? One of the biggest things I emphasize is the first fold in a resume is what they look at, and that first fold would be approximately right around this area and above. So there's a good amount of real estate to write something, and that should be used for your professional profile statement. If you're a senior military member, that would be considered an executive profile statement. And you should be concentrating in that area on what do you technically bring to the table. In a succinct snapshot, what do you bring? So if I'm Louis Travieso, I should be able to say either in a couple bullets or in a small paragraph what I bring to the table. And unfortunately, this is not there. Career objective. The second point is career objectives. They're obsolete in today's market. If you're applying for a position, obviously that is an objective of yours to go after that. So I always tell veterans, don't waste your time on a career objective. You should have a clear snapshot of the positions you feel you're qualified for, and you back that up with a proven track record. That is enough for a recruiter to understand is what you were looking for, especially if you're applying for a position. Third point here, there's no positions that show her as a HR professional. Nancy, do you see anywhere in here that says HR professional?
Not above on that first fold, is like you're saying. There's nothing underneath you either, right?
No, there isn't. There's one thing here that says administrative specialist.
There's a problem.
And then it finally gets to it down here where it says human resources specialist. So this is not a good news story for someone who wants to be considered an HR professional. They technically should be right under their name, right above the professional profile statement. I always recommend put your position that you feel you're most qualified for or you're applying for right here. And that allows for an HR professional to know what you're applying for. Don't ever let an HR professional guess what position you deemed let them deem you're qualified for. You're never going to get an interview that way. Next, I want to bring up the fact there are no core competencies on this resume. Many employers today will use software to scan a resume, and a lot of those things they're looking for is not just desired qualifications, but core competencies or areas of expertise that fit that profile. And that's a huge thing right now. When you're looking at HR, you're looking at human resource management, talent retention, talent management, et cetera, employee relations. Those things should be meta-tagged in this resume. And lastly, about the format. I would recommend when you're doing this is to include a header and a footer on that second page, Nancy. You see right up there? Put a header or footer up there. That way it has a good flow. Simple things like that matter to an audience.
Would you explain just a little bit more what a header and a footer would look like? What it is for people who might not know?
So when you're in Word, and I always recommend you do your resume in Word, is that the very top portion there, if you were to click it, it would give you an option to type things in. It's going to be in the background. So there I would put my name, and I'll get into it a little bit further in the branding side of it, but branding theme. So if I'm Louis Travieso, I'll put a divider, and I'll say Louis Travieso, MBA, and a divider, and I'll say, ready to lead operations in high-stress environments. That's an example in quotation. And I would follow that underneath with a cell phone number and my email again. Because what I don't want to do is lose Yeah, that area right there, and that's a header and a footer, and that supports your format, making a more visually appealing, easier to read product. So, real quick, I just want to touch base on the content, which resumes are three portions: format, content, and branding. And as much as you could have a visually appealing product, if you don't have the right content in there, you're not going to get an interview. So here, these are just examples of job descriptions or job duties. I don't see anywhere in here where I see achievements that are quantifiable and are specific. So what this is, it looks like, and this is very common, are cut and paste out of fit reps or NCOERs, and that's very common. But I always caution, friends, colleagues, clients, stay away from that. Think about what you did and what your impacts were and put that down. If you're applying for an HR management position and you were in your previous life a human resource specialist, put that up there as well. Remember, an administrative specialist can mean a lot of things in the Army. Civilianize your position. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not lying. You're not embellishing. But show that you've done that job in a past life. That's a critical piece of advice. Show you do that job in a past life, regardless of the title. If you're that confident in applying, show you can do it. But yeah, I would recommend the content here, Nancy, and for our friends, in our group, the content here needs to be overhauled. I think it's very important that we use achievements. And I can give you an example of a bullet, something as simple as, optimize HR operations by 30%. Something as simple as that, and then show how you did it very simply and succinctly. Things of that magnitude, showing your impacts. That is exactly where it's at. And we'll look at a resume here shortly that show impacts and show the measurables of where they should be. Lastly, on this resume, branding. There's no professional branding. When I mean professional branding, I mean simply things that show what you bring to the table and who you are as a person. Some people like to be branded as leaders. Others like to be branded as experts. Some like to be branded as team builders. So I don't get a fuzzy when I look at this resume of what this person brings to the table. So I would recommend branding themes throughout a resume. Simple things that highlight somebody's abilities and things like that. It could be something like innovative thinker with a broad-based expertise in finance, human resources, and operations at the very top before that profile statement. Using a testimonial box on that second page or that first page of someone senior to them that's endorsing them, showing what kind of value they bring. And Nancy, you've seen that before, right? The testimonial boxes on resumes?
I haven't seen them very often, and everything you're saying is just so interesting to me. I want to just say real quickly, Lou, that, for somebody that is not educated, like I'm not educated as far as what a good resume looks like, this to me looks like she probably had a professional resume writer do this for her. I mean, at first glance, it looks very organized and there's bullet points and all this, and, it's like, isn't it interesting that there's different levels of expertise as far as resume writers go?
It is, and it's a fact. Unfortunately, even if it's done by a professional, it should be done by a professional who understands the industry she's going into or has experience demilitarizing these type of terms to make more of a civilian presence. But, there's a lot of things. There's upper-level echelons of expertise. You have the recruiter side of it where they look at it as a consumer, and I can tell you what works and what doesn't work. And, of course, you have the professional writing side of it that produces these custom-tailored products to support their candidates and clients. But, yeah, just to finish on the branding piece, things of that magnitude help, and it helps candidacy and it helps the client. So Nancy, I'm not sure if you have any questions left on this resume as a no-go example before I move on to the other.
No, my only question would be, should we perhaps stop this for right now and start a whole another 15-minute session just for people that aren't able to do more than 15 minutes at a time, and that way they know that starting the second segment is going to be the right way to do it?
Absolutely. That works for me, yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do that. I'm just thinking that way it'll be really, really clear, that at the end of this 15-minute segment, all we've talked about is how not to do it pretty much, and a little bit about how to do it. And then, of course, this part 2 is going to be an example of a great resume that's been written that gets results, right? So, again, just wrapping up, I wanted to say thank you to you, Louis Travieso, who's talking with us today. Louis is currently working with U.S. Central Command, and we're just so grateful that he also happens to be a resume expert and is just giving his time during this holiday season to make this video to put on our YouTube channel so people can use this right on their own time and look at it as many times as they need to while they do their own resume, if that's what they choose to do. And, of course, if you don't want to do it yourself, you can hire Lou to help you, of course. So, Lou, I think that we're getting a little signal here that your internet connection was down. So, do you hear me now?
I'm still here. Yeah, I can still hear you. I'm just listening.
Okay, great. Up at the top there, do you want to just go ahead and pass the presenter role back to me?
I clicked out of it by accident, Nancy. That's what occurred. So let me go in real quick, if you don't mind.
Reclaim presenter role. Okay, I'm just reclaiming it right here. Okay, great.
What is? Let's see here.
I got it now. We got it. It's working just fine. Before we just ended this, I wanted again just to show people your LinkedIn profile so they'll know who you are, because a picture is just, better than words. This is Louis right here. Like I said, he and I met on, let's see here, we're working with this technology here. Can you hear me now, Louis?
I'm in. Yep, I'm in. I'm watching everything you're doing. Yep.
Okay, great. So again, Louis and I met on LinkedIn, which is just an example of the power of LinkedIn. And then he joined our Project Transition USA group on LinkedIn, and then he and I connected, and we ended up meeting at a restaurant and talking, because it's just so great that we have somebody with his experience who is also a resume expert and is willing to just give of his time pro bono consulting to help veterans. It's just such a rare combination of things to find. So again, Louis, I just want to thank you for doing this with us today. And I will just say over and out, and we're going to start part 2 in just a minute.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Nancy. Have a great night.
Thank you.